are you doing on this Thursday, November 10th, 2022? I'm Jer Stays, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. After a few days of some heavy topics, let's take it lighter for the rest of the week. Fletcher Sharp is across the table from me. Fletcher Sharp, as always, good to see you.
Getting to talk about sports should be a good pick-me-up.
And we've got some different topics to talk about, as we kind of mentioned that, the Detroit City FC season is over. There isn't really as much to follow. And frankly, we have some other passions as well. So kind of led by our interests and led by feedback from listeners, we're going to dive into the Detroit Pistons. We're going to talk a little University of Detroit Mercy Titans, as well as, of course, the Detroit Lions, because they finally won something.
It's my chance to show I'm not a one-trick pony.
We always knew that about you, Fletcher. We always did. Let's just jump right into it. The Pistons, I want to talk about their last 10 games or so. As we're recording this, we're about that level in. We're not going to do game-by-game breakdowns. It doesn't really match our pace. But when it comes to the Pistons in general, what do we have to look forward to?
We knew that they would not be that great to start the year, maybe even to finish the year. I said at best would be like a dark horse to maybe take the last playoff spot. And that's really if they figure it out near the end of the season. But I figured they'd struggle early on. Some of their struggles are a little worrisome. Cade Cunningham's shooting is still not that great. Jaden Ivey is very quick. He's very fast. But also, his shooting is really not that great. He's struggling outside the paint at times. Cade's having some ball control issues. Some of his passing is getting away from him. Saddiq Bey, I wouldn't say he's regressed so far this season, but he's not taken off. That's kind of because while they went with a nice little bit of a youth thing, they signed Bojan Bogdanovic, who is a great shooter, but he's literally an older European version of Saddiq Bey. So when Bojan's doing great, Saddiq Bey probably won't, and vice versa. And then they also just re-signed Bojan to a big contract, literally 9 games in. So he can't go to the bench now. Saddiq might have to go to the bench if you're going to try to start with a actual traditional power forward. Jalen Duren has shown flashes of why they drafted him. Unfortunately, he's also shown flashes of why they don't. Some foul trouble, some injuries. Isaiah Stewart, he is still trying, and I appreciate that. My biggest issue is they have him stepping out to shoot three-pointers, which is not what I want my center to do if I run a basketball team. I understand that today's NBA is changing, so you need to have big men who can shoot. But why don't you master the interior first before you step out? Get your rebounding down, get your shot blocking, get your points in the paint down. Maybe get, about averaging 10, 11, 12 points a game maybe. Then we add the three-pointer. Then we add something else to your game. But I don't know. It's just it makes me uncomfortable with how many threes they're shooting per game. But they beat a scrappy Oklahoma team earlier this week. It looked bad. They were down 20-odd points at half. And then Dwayne Casey got in there and must have just been hey, enough. And they came out and outscored them 24-6 on a 24-6 run to take the lead and then never give it back, which is great because Oklahoma City is also a young team led by a young star with a bunch of young players around them. So to show that you're scrappy for that, it's great. They're going to have moments where they're going to look like all-stars, and they're going to have moments where they look like they're all teenagers because essentially they almost all are.
Well, this is one you really wanted to follow, and I want to follow too. Why are you excited about the team? For me, it's about seeing those real flashes of brilliance. I don't even know if we're going to make the playoffs this year, but I can see progress there.
No, they probably won't. If they do, again, it'll be dark horse, 8th seed. They somehow get in with a losing record, and then they just get wrecked in the first series. And I'd be okay with that because it still shows growth. You still get a decent draft pick while you're there.
What would it take for them to get into the playoffs?
Cade's got to stop turning the ball over. He's averaging 6 assists, which is not bad, but also averaging almost 3.5 turnovers. So I'm not a math guy, but when you're averaging half as many turnovers as assists, that's probably not a great stat to have. But yeah, he's still putting the ball in the bucket. You'd like to see your guy who's going to be your main ball handler, your main scorer, to be putting the ball in the bucket at a clip higher than 44%, 43%. But we also understand because he's taking a lot of shots. Maybe some shots he shouldn't need to be taking. Again, I understand this is a young team. They're trying to grow into leadership, grow into what they need to do to succeed. So there'll be moments where they do things that remind you that some of them can't legally drink yet.
Those are some facts. Even though they're at the bottom of the standings right now, what I like is that they're putting that effort. Like we've been talking about that effort, and I don't see a tanking situation here whatsoever.
Yeah, the NBA has been really weird. They're like, we don't want people talking about tanking, no tanking. And then every time you look at a clip, 1 out of 5 clips that they post on their Facebook or Twitter is that very large French freak of nature, Victor Mwemba, 7'1", 7'2", dribbles like a guard, shoots like a guard, handles the ball like a guard, but can also dunk, rebound, and block shots like a big man. He's a unicorn, essentially. He's like another Kevin Durant. Hopefully he gets to the league and does well. He has the body frame of a praying mantis, but like he has killer instinct and he's shown it. They keep showing this kid like literally as much as they can. It's like, don't tank, but look what could be the #1 draft pick. But don't tank, but look what he's doing. He scored 30 points in his league game. That's amazing. But don't tank. Don't. And it's like, everyone knows how I feel about tanking, so I won't go on that spiel. But I really appreciate the fact that Pistons are going out there and they're trying to win these games. They're trying to go out there and play hard. Will they make mistakes? Definitely. Again, they're a young team, but they're trying to win games. Maybe they're not going about it the best way, but I appreciate that. I'd much rather you go out there and try to win and you lose 60 odd games versus you try to lose and lose like 75, like the 76ers did, where they had TJ McConnell as their starting point guard, knowing full well he's not an NBA player. They're like, he's going to be our starting guard. He can't shoot, can really barely pass, cannot play defense, but he's got grit. So lace him up. And they're like, he's a star everywhere else he's been a backup. By like backup, I mean like he carries the water for like the backup point guard. So like that's how far away from the court he should be. But Philadelphia was like, we're going to start. And they just tanked for like 5, 6, 7 years to get the team they have now. And they still can't win, which is like the little bit of schadenfreude that I like to take part of is in that. But yeah, I don't see the Pistons doing that. I see a plan there, and that makes me feel good about the whole organization.
Talking about teams that can't drink yet, this was a listener pick that we follow a bit of Horizon League action and talk about University of Detroit Mercy, a team that's frankly caught the imagination of a lot of Metro Detroiters over the years. They've had some very special runs. What do we have in store this year? As we're recording this, the first game has not been played yet. So when you hear this, it probably has. What are some of the things that you're looking at, Fletcher?
2 words, start and stop. Antoine Davis. And that's really it. Bonafide star. He's so close to breaking so many NCAA records. He's already the leading scorer in Detroit Mercy history. He's really close, about 180 points away from the Horizon League top scorer, which really should only take him like 3 or 4 games at the pace that he scores. He is 266 points away from becoming the 11th player to score 3,000 points in an NCAA career, and 933 points away from Pistol Pete Maravich's NCAA career record, which is almost 4,000 points, 3,667. He's not going to break that. Like, unless he averages 50 points a game, he's not going to break that. And something I will mention, Pistol Pete's record is really amazing because back when Pistol Pete played college, 2 things. 1, they made you play freshman ball your first year in basketball. No matter how good you are, you could be a combination of Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Steph Curry. You come to college, you play freshman your first year. Then after that, we move you up. But he averaged like 45 points his first year as a freshman, and he did that without a 3-point line. So you can imagine how many more points he would have. Did the numbers, he's going to have to average about like 900 points this season, which is not something he's done. So probably not looking at that. He's close for the 3-point record in the NCAA. He's already got the Horizon League record. He is about 80 away from Wofford's Fletcher McGee, who hit 509 3-pointers. He averages about 100 a season, so if he has a regular season, should catch him near the end of the year. He's currently 4th in NCAA history with consecutive games in double figures. He's only 4 away from the all-time mark. And looking at the first 5 teams in the schedule, which are Rochester, New York, Boston College, Ohio University, Florida Atlantic, and Bryant. Yeah, I don't see any of those teams keeping him under 10. I don't think they will win all those games, but I do think he's going to at least score 10 points. My biggest worry with this team, which has been in the past with him and Detroit Mercy, that a really okay year at 14-16 last year. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. In order for them to be well, he has to score a lot, but in order for him to be better, he has to pass the ball a lot. And like As of late, at times, his teammates kind of have not really rose to the occasion, which is going to make scoring a bit harder if everyone knows I can leave this guy in the corner and double you because you're going to have to shoot the ball anyways. You might hit this fadeaway three-pointer from 28 feet away over two outstretched hands, but also you're probably going to miss it, and now we got a fast break because you're not trusting your teammates. This roster for them is entirely new. It's a lot of freshmen who haven't played, a lot of juniors and seniors who didn't play major minutes, a lot of transfer students who are coming from other schools who were doing decent at their schools. So you're going to get a mixed bag of players. Could be a turning point year. I know this is Antoine's last year. A lot of these kids, it's their last year as their graduate students from transfer. But like this could be the year they maybe break through and get, do some damage in the Horizon tournament. And of course, if they win the tournament, automatically get to go to the NCAA tournament. That's a nice carrot to have that you're chasing. So I think they have a chance. Do I think it's the best chance? No, I don't know if necessarily all the additions make them better than Green Bay or IUPUI or even Oakland, but I think they should be on the positive side of the record for once.
Yeah, well, we'll look back at it in about 5 games. For me, I like to see what's on the court, and I kind of always look at it as a fresh slate, and it's really going to be a fresh slate this year with all the faces. Now, to the Lions. I'm only mentioning it because we won. And according to the video that I saw put out by the team, it needs to be a habit, Fletcher. Make winning a habit. Good defense. Make it a habit, Fletcher.
Yeah, make proper coaching a habit, too. They almost lost that game, and I understand that Aaron Rodgers is on the downswing. However you feel about him, as a person, like, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL when he's played. But he's currently on a downswing of, play. Kind of like Tom Brady, where it's like, all right, maybe Father Time actually is winning this one.
Should he have just hung up the cleats?
Probably, but
that's not going to happen.
There are people who want to die in the field, and you really can't stop them if they want to die in the field. And that's just, you got to say, I hope we don't watch it when it happens. But Aaron Rodgers had a horrendous game, 3 interceptions, awful game. And still you had this feeling as a Lions fan of, man, we gave him the ball with X amount of time left. He's going to stick the dagger in our hearts. Like, it was very obvious that that's what everyone was thinking. So when he decided to go for it and they did not get it, every Lions fan, I read the Twitter feed, I read Reddit, I read Facebook, everyone was like, 4-letter expletive. 4-letter expletive. Oh my God, 4-letter expletive. We're going to lose this game. And defense stepped up. I still don't think it was the best call. I don't think he made the call because he had confidence in his defense. I think he made the call because he wanted to just big dog his opponent. A punt would have been safer. Punt would have been safer, would have allowed you more space to play defense, get the ball, and, make sure everyone doesn't have a heart attack. But he went the hard way. And luckily for him, the defense pulled it off and they won.
I don't have faith that this is going to happen a lot the rest of the season.
No.
I don't think this changes the trajectory of what we've been dealing with and what we've been seeing.
No, I don't think it does either. The reason why I'm excited for the Pistons, the reason why I'm not as excited for the Lions. I'm excited for the Pistons because generally they lose. Both teams lose. But the Pistons find different ways to lose. It's like, well, one player got hot, but the rest didn't. Well, we couldn't rebound. Well, we didn't attack the glass well. Well, they killed us in the interior, just going by our plays and laying the ball up. Well, we kept getting our shots blocked. Well, we kept turning the ball over. These are different ways you're losing. The Lions keep losing one of 2 ways. Their defense couldn't stop a runny nose, or the coach just makes a very terrible error that dooms the team. One or the other. It's been that way the entire time, save for the one loss where their offense just couldn't get it started. But they've been losing most of their games this way. That's frustrating. That's been the history of the Lions fans, period. Going back to Jim Schwartz, going back to Marty Morningweg, going back to even Bobby Ross near the end. It's like when they lose because someone made a very egregious error on the defense side, or a coach just made a play that he probably shouldn't have and screwed up. Thankfully, they can take off the table they're not blocking for their quarterback because Goff, while he's been hit a few times, has not been hit nearly as much as any quarterback in the past, and that's progress. You can stop ragging them for having a bad offensive line. At this point, it's not them. It's the product behind the offensive line. But the offensive line is doing a much better job. I will give them credit there.
Any quick reacts on the firing of Aubrey Pleasant? We didn't talk about that before. He was the defensive backs coach, pass game coordinator.
Well, given the fact that the DBs the past few games before he was fired were giving up huge plays, and it'd be one thing to give up a huge play to the third string receiver who we all know about, but not well. But it's like the guy who like the opposing team's selling like tickets for, like the guy who has like a, maybe the jersey that's in the stands should not be running full open down the sideline with no one there. Maybe he's the one who's like, hey, watch him. This other rookie out of whatever, sure. But the star who's here, who makes X amount of money, who's got the celebration that all the kids do, maybe make sure he doesn't run away from you. And like,
so he wasn't a fall guy. This was deserved.
I think it's both. I do think he was a bit at fault because position coaches teach the positions what they're supposed to be doing properly and how it's supposed to fit in the scheme. But if you scheme poorly, no matter how well you coach up your players, it's going to not work. Like if you scheme to like blitz every single play, 6 people in the backfield, and you teach everyone perfectly, and it just doesn't work, your coordinator is also kind of screwing you over too, not just your position coaches. So I think it was justified. I think it showed that Campbell is really trying to make a difference. But I'm so sick of hearing like, well, this one's on me. Obviously, it's on you. Like, we can all see it. It's to the point to where like not even like the football fan who's like needs to analyze stuff is like, oh, man. Like even the common guy who's like, oh, man, I don't even watch sports, but I know the coach screwed up right there. I'm really sick of hearing that excuse as to why they lose.
Do you hold to your record prediction at the beginning of the year?
What was it, 3-14?
Something like that, yeah.
I'll give him one. I'll give him 4-13. I'll give him one more because I think they find a way to gut it out. I don't know if they beat Green Bay in Green Bay, but I don't see them beating Minnesota. They traded away TJ Hawkinson to Minnesota, and I see TJ Hawkinson.
That's going to bite us. That is going to bite us. That's going to hurt.
You know what? I was talking to someone on Twitter, and I didn't really realize this. As much maligned as Eric Ebron, former tight end, was for the Lions, for like his drops and just terrible like catching, TJ Hawkinson has the same exact numbers as Eric Ebron from his time in Detroit, and you never heard a peep about how he couldn't catch the ball. I think the difference is Eric Ebron was bad on good teams. TJ Hawkinson's bad on a bad team. But yeah, just the percentage of drops, because you can't do the same amount. Percentage of drops for them is like very close. Number of catches, number of games played, it's like black and white clones. It's very like uncomfortable how similar their games are. So to see him go after seeing those numbers, it stings a bit because it's basically the organization telling you, like, this guy does not fit for us. Like, we were held on them for a bit too long.
See, what I'm just worried about, though, is that stats aside, there's just this history of players leaving and then doing better. And I just don't want to see that. Like, of course, there's nothing personal against TJ. But when you trade somebody like that to somebody in your own division, like, I just have these nightmare feels. That's all.
Either you trade him to somebody and get something back, or you let the trade deadline pass and he leaves for free and then still goes to your rival. So at least they're getting something back, albeit it's like trades and picks. Sure, that could be helpful if you draft the right people, but you could have a great number of picks and still be terrible. Again, to use them as a reference, the 76ers in Philadelphia, they traded for so many picks, so many first-round top-tier picks, and drafted so many bad players, it did not really matter because they were setting themselves up to fail. Remember, there was like a 4-year, 5-year window where they drafted 4 straight power forwards / centers. I'm like, how do you plan to play basketball? All you have are trees. You have no guards and just like 4 or 5 centers / power forwards, all of whom are injury prone, mind you, just sitting on your bench. Like, what happens next? Who are you getting rid of? Thankfully, they picked the right one and Joel Embiid and were able to progress from there. But like, you have to actually have people who draft well. And yeah, I know Brad Holmes is like this guru in terms of building teams together, and like I expect for him to figure something out. I'm getting a bit of PTSD watching him just accumulate draft picks and be like, well, we'll be good. We'll be good soon. We'll be good all soon. We got it. And it's like, well, you guys said that in the past, and we're still waiting for you to be good. But yeah, if I were a Lions fan, I would be somewhat cautiously optimistic, but also like I'd be fed up. It's kind of, two feelings at once.
Fair. Before I let you go, I wanted to mention real quick that more than 1,000 boxers are coming to Huntington Place in Detroit for the 2023 USA Boxing National Qualifier. That's going to start March 18th and run for 7 days for Olympic-style boxing right here in Detroit. I think it's going to be something that will, kind of showcase things a lot. Boxing's still a big thing around here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people still go to around Kronk Gym when they can. You see a lot of people from the state of Michigan doing pretty well in boxing. One particular, Clarissa Shields, who's one of the most accomplished boxers in the world, regardless of gender. I'm happy to see events like this happen in the city because it'll draw more eyes to it and allow them to get even more events of this caliber, and maybe even some events that are a step above, no disrespect to them.
Oh, yeah. This will be the second qualifier to next December's 2024 U.S. Olympic Team Trials for boxing. So, the road to the Olympics comes through Detroit, which is pretty cool. All right, Fletcher Sharp, good to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can always find Fletcher Sharp on Twitter at SaintFDW. With that, I'm J.R. Stays. Feedback, as always, dailydetroit at gmail.com. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.